This is the fourth part of the interpretation of clear thinking. We continued discussing how to overcome the gravitational pull of mediocrity, with the focus on decision-making. When you're brought into a meeting room, the vice president details the current situation, lists various options, and the board earnestly asks you how to proceed. That's decision-making. But how often do such situations occur in daily life? Daniel Kahneman won the Nobel Prize in Economics by studying the relationship between human biases and rational decision-making. Still, if you read Kahneman's biography, you'll find he didn't make many formal decisions in his lifetime. Is decision science useful to ordinary people? It's useful. Shane Parrish's insight is that life is full of opportunities to exercise judgment and make scientifically informed decisions, but you might not realize those are opportunities. You often let instinctively run on autopilot, reacting without thoughtful consideration, unknowingly falling into the trap of mediocrity. Hopefully, this series makes you allergic to mediocrity. It's not a pleasant experience, and you might need some adaptation. Decision-making is about understanding what you want, identifying available options, and making the best choice. However, decision-making, first and foremost, is a consciousness and awareness that you need to know what you want, make choices, and quickly gather relevant information. In daily life, people tend to make choices without any evaluation, following inertia. You need decision-making awareness. Parrish tells a scene in the book that gives you another taste of what mediocrity feels like. A group of people is deciding where to eat during a gathering. Suggestions bounce between Mexican food, salad, and indecision reigns. They discussed it over and over again until they were so hungry that they just randomly chose the most convenient one. This indecisiveness, Parrish notes, is like watching a comedy. He frequently observes such scenes and notes that it's akin to watching a comedy. If even choosing where to eat becomes a prolonged debate, how can these people decide on significant matters? Your contribution lacks constructive input. You only know what you don't want but lack clarity on what you want. More importantly, such trivial matters aren't worth the persistence. The correct approach is for someone to suggest a couple of options, and everyone quickly agrees on one. Prioritizing tasks based on their urgency and importance is essential for good decision-making. This book is called Clear Thinking, and clarity comes from understanding priorities. Before Andrew Carnegie became the Steel King, he worked for a railroad company. Carnegie's story has been mentioned before, emphasizing his advanced business knowledge gained from working in the most cutting-edge enterprise of his time. Parrish also shares a story about Carnegie's contributions to the railroad company. Once, a train had an accident, and carriages were scattered on the tracks, causing a complete halt to the entire line. The common instinct was to quickly clear the carriages to salvage most of the cargo, but Carnegie, upon assessing the situation, realized that the value of the cargo, combined with the carriages, was not significant. The greater loss would be the prolonged suspension of the railroad. He then issued an order, in the name of the owner, to burn the carriages along with the cargo. Upon the owner's return, learning of Carnegie's decision, he immediately established it as the standard operating procedure for handling similar situations in the future. This reflects the style of someone who understands not only what is important but fears that others might lose sight of it in the future and takes the initiative to authorize a course of action. In the military, there's a concept known as commander's intent, which means that if the commander is not present, subordinates should be able to adapt according to this guiding principle to achieve the goal. The key point of the commander's intent is what is most important for me. Ensure that this is achieved, and everything else can be adjusted as needed. While it may sound simple, often even the commander doesn't know what he wants most. For example, when hiring a new employee or promoting someone from the existing team, the primary focus should be on job competence. However, other factors, such as likability, seniority, or good interpersonal relations, might cloud this decision-making process. Because there are too many default options that are not optimal, many seemingly routine situations are, in fact, decision-making scenarios. Knowledge workers frequently find themselves making decisions. The quality of decisions ultimately determines how far and how fast you can progress. While others may not recognize these as decision-making scenarios, you make decisions when others make bad ones, propelling yourself ahead. Scientific decision-making needs a systematic approach, emphasizing processes and decision hygiene. We've previously explored Daniel Kahneman's Noise and Richard P. Rumelt's The Crux, assuming you already have a fair understanding of scientific decision-making methods. Here, let's sort out some of the points in Parrish's book that may be of new insights to you. The decision-making process involves 4 stages. First, define the problem. Second, explore potential solutions. Third, evaluate options and make judgments. Fourth, execute the best plan. Decision-making is essentially creating a multiple-choice question for yourself. However, these 4 steps are interconnected. A deviation in one step compromises the correctness of the subsequent ones. Therefore, caution is necessary. Parrish's insight is to establish safeguards at various stages of the decision-making process to ensure you stay on course and facilitate smooth decision-making. Let's discuss each key point one by one. Defining the problem means clarifying. First, what goal you want to achieve, and second, what obstacles are preventing you from achieving that goal. Many people either haven't considered their goals, but for most serious decision-making problems, people struggle to distinguish the primary obstacles. It's common for someone to propose a problem, and everyone dives into solving it without addressing the root causes. Parrish suggests a safeguard. Hold 2 separate meetings, one solely for defining the problem and the second for discussing solutions. Exploring potential solutions involves creatively discovering new options. Suppose you receive unjust criticism at work. If your only options are to resign or swallow your pride, you might feel conflicted. Why not consider other possibilities, such as having a constructive conversation with your boss or seeking a transfer to another department? Stopwatch equals 500. Another safeguard here is to increase options if they seem limited. Another challenge in this stage is people tend to be overly presumptive, not considering unexpected scenarios. Parrish recommends a pre-mortem, assume the project has failed, and figure out the likely reasons for failure. Address these potential pitfalls in advance. It's crucial to list all possible solutions, unleash your imagination fully, and then move on to the next step, evaluating options. Otherwise, you might fall into unrealistic, single-minded thinking. Evaluating options requires knowing what is important and what is not, which means setting criteria. Once you know what's important, the remaining challenge is precisely judging the value of each option. For instance, if you value earning money the most, Company A offers a high and stable salary, while Company B may go public in the future, potentially bringing in substantial profits. How do you decide? A safeguard here is to gather information. The research related to decision-making warrants a detailed analysis, which we'll cover in the next part. The execution stage poses a challenge as people often deviate from their previous decisions. You might have a great plan, but real-time situations can cloud your judgment. Suppose you're climbing Mount Everest. After years of training and spending $60,000 on the trip and guides, you're just 50 meters away from the summit, but you're 30 minutes behind schedule. What do you do? The rational choice is to descend immediately because you've already consumed an additional 30 minutes of oxygen, and delaying the return trip might leave you with insufficient oxygen. But your ego might resist. Thus, you need a safeguard. Establish a strict rule in advance that the team must descend in such a situation. No arguments on site will be entertained. These decision-making skills embody a steel-like rationality. However, it's essential to emphasize that this isn't utilitarianism. Rapidly advancing towards a goal doesn't prohibit exploring other objectives. While we discussed the relationship between goals and purposes when interpreting inner mastery, outer impact, life is a gradual exploration to discover your purpose. Each action should strive to achieve it, so you need a clear sense of purpose. Parrish's book also notes that decision-making is not just about knowing how to get what you want, but also knowing what is worth wanting. People are often attracted to seemingly meaningless things when they are young, only to realize the most valuable things as they age. We've previously discussed how to discover what you truly want when reading Russ Roberts's Wild Problems. Here, we won't delve into that further. As Parrish manages both a company and investments, he frequently makes decisions involving significant interests. One detail might touch you deeply. After making a decision, Parrish doesn't announce it immediately. He writes down the entire reasoning on a piece of paper, places it on his desk before sleeping, and leaves it there overnight. When the results are known, he can reflect on the decision-making process and improve it. Moreover, he can reassess the decision with a fresh perspective the next day. If something feels off, it indicates the decision isn't mature. In conclusion, you must reach this level to master decision-making. The ability to make good decisions is challenging to certify with academic credentials and challenging to showcase on a resume, but I believe it is the most valuable and scarce skill. These decision-making processes can also be understood as training neural networks to let the most reasonable actions run automatically, minimizing resistance. We emphasize that decision-making must first understand what is most important. Once you have the most important thing, everything else matters less. However, crucial elements can cloud judgment, so you need to set up safeguards. In Parrish's words, it's about designing a system when you're at your best, so that it works for you when you're at your worst.
If you feel there is value in this, please like, subscribe to this channel, and leave your thoughts or suggestions in the comments section. Let's grow together and read more good books.